May 25, 1940, for 17 hours. La Bassée Canal, northern France. The morning begins with the sound of metal deep, groaning metal luking across the still water. A low mist hangs over the canal, swallowing shapes and turning every silhouette into a threat. The world is colorless, wet, and cold. And in the middle of this ghost-gray landscape stands Colonel Charles Nicholson, his boots planted on the shattered remains of a bridge that was never meant to decide the fate of an army. He doesn't speak, can barely hear over the distant thud of artillery rolling like thunder from the east. But his eyes sharp, restless track every tremor that runs through the damaged span beneath him. Each vibration feels like a warning. A few feet away, a lone Royal Engineer kneels beside a cracked support beam, fingertips brushing splinters. "It won't hold, sir," he mutters, breath fogging in the cold air. Hot. Nicholson knows he's right. The bridge looks like it has survived an earthquake. A bomb crater on the far bank still smokes, warm ashes drifting across the planks. A Bedford truck burned there hours ago, nothing left but a blackened husk and the faint smell of diesel. Nicholson closes his fist around the edge of a soggy field map. Not because he needs to study it. He already knows every road, canal, and farm track within 10 miles. He grips the map because it keeps his hands from shaking. Behind him, the first wave of retreating British Expeditionary Force infantry appears, exhausted. Mud-caked, half-starved men of the 2nd Battalion Royal Norfolk Regiment. Helmets low, rifles slung, axes hollow. They don't know it yet, but this bridge, this broken, splintered, dying bridge is the only reason they aren't already surrounded by Guderian's panzers. Nicholson turns, scanning the east. You can almost see what he sees. A faint tremble in the ground, a vibration underfoot, the kind that only heavy vehicles make. Tanks, many of them, somewhere behind the mist. He exhales slowly. "Get them across," he says. There is no debate. It's no time for meetings, no quiet moment to weigh alternatives. The BEF is collapsing toward the coast like a dam bursting under pressure. And Guderian's armored spearheads are cutting roads behind them faster than anyone in London can comprehend. A single decision now might save tens of thousands later. The Norfolks begin to move across the bridge in a nervous, broken line, boots clattering on warped planks, every step sounding like a gamble. Each soldier looks down, then forward, then back again, as if expecting the entire structure to give way and drag them into the freezing canal. One private presses both palms to the wooden rail to steady himself, muttering a prayer between chattering teeth. From the west bank, a dispatch rider skids to a halt in a spray of mud. "Colonel, German units reported near Bethune. It's fast movers. They'll be here soon." Nicholson barely nods. He knew this would come. The panzers aren't just advancing, they're racing, hunting, trying to slice the BEF off from Dunkirk before the evacuation can even begin. Another tremor shakes the bridge. A long, low moan of stressed timber rises under the men's boots. Nicholson's jaw tightens. "Keep the weight staggered," he snaps to a nearby lieutenant. No bunching. If it goes under one man, not 50. The lieutenant salutes and runs to spread the line out. Soldiers begin waving others forward, palms up, spreading them like shepherds guiding sheep across a cliffside path. The bridge sags. The water beneath it ripples. Nicholson listens again. That distant thunder closer now, sharper. Not artillery. Engines. The unmistakable growl of armored columns pushing west. He steps onto the bridge. The engineer behind him swears under his breath. But Nicholson keeps moving, steady, boots landing in the spaces between the deepest cracks. You can almost feel the cold wind on his face, the grit blowing from pulverized brick, the tension running through his shoulders like electricity. He's not afraid of dying, he's afraid of failing. Halfway across, he stops next to a young corporal frozen in place, breath hitching, eyes locked on the water. Nicholson puts a hand on his shoulder, not gentle, but firm. "Look at me," Nicholson says. "You're not dying on this bridge today. Move." The corporal swallows, nods, and stumbles forward. Nicholson watches him go. Only then does he glance back toward the eastern horizon. The mist is thinning now, revealing faint black dots on the far road, small at first, then larger, sharper. Armored cars, motorcycles, the vanguard. The Germans are arriving. Nicholson turns to the Royal Engineers. We need charges placed on the far bank. As soon as the last man crosses, we bring it down. A sergeant hesitates. Sir, if we blow it too early, we trap our own. If we blow it too late, we'll roll straight to Dunkirk. Nicholson finishes for him. Another tremor shakes the air, a rumble deeper this time. Louder, closer. The approaching engines no longer sound like distant thunder, they sound like inevitability. Nicholson steps off the bridge onto the west bank as another company of exhausted BEF soldiers approaches, eyes wide at the sight of the damaged span. He knows the truth now with complete clarity. This isn't just a crossing, it's a door. A narrowing door the entire BEF must squeeze through before it slams shut forever. And the Germans are already reaching for the handle. Nicholson tightens his grip on the map, lifts his head. Nicholson doesn't waste a second. He steps back from the bridge and moves to a shallow rise overlooking the canal. From here he can see everything: the broken span, the mud-choked road leading toward Bethune, the ghostly silhouettes of the next battalion trudging forward, and beyond that, the eastern horizon where the mist is now peeling away like a curtain. What appears behind it turns his stomach cold. German armored cars S, D, K, F, Z. 221s, moving fast. Their engines grind through the morning stillness, joined by the higher-pitched whine of motorcycle troops weaving ahead like hunting dogs. Nicholson's heart hammers. If they reach the bridge before it collapses, if even one Panzer II makes it across intact, the retreating BEF units behind him, the Norfolks, the Durhams, the Coldstream Guards would be carved apart on the open roads. No cover, no time, no hope. He wipes the back of his glove across his brow. Sweat, cold as the canal water.
Oh.
A runner approaches at full sprint, boots kicking mud in all directions. Colonel.
Oh.
Signals reports German armor south of us is well, moving parallel, fast. Nicholson doesn't need the map anymore. He sees the trap forming in real time. Guderian panzers, R&T wandering. They reclosing jaws around an army of nearly 300,000 men. He forces himself to breathe slowly. Nearby, a squad of Royal Engineers kneels in the mud, wiring up the demolition charges. Their fingers work fast, practiced, almost mechanical. But their eyes flick toward the approaching Germans with every passing second. Make sure the far bank supports are ready to go, Nicholson orders. We detonate as soon as the last company crosses. A sergeant nods. Aye, sir. But she's barely holding as it is. Nicholson doesn't reply. He knows. Every passing man, every crate, every ration cart is a weight added to a structure, begging to die. Behind him, more troops push toward the crossing, faces hollow, shoulders sagging, uniforms torn. You can almost feel the desperation in the air, thick as smoke. The kind of exhaustion that steals the color from the world and replaces it with raw survival instinct. A wounded private limps toward the bridge, supported by two mates. Nicholson steps aside to let them pass. One of them whispers to him, voice cracking, "Are we too late, sir?" Nicholson meets his eyes and forces himself to lie. No, not yet. Because the truth is brutal. They are minutes away from catastrophe. Another rumble shakes the ground. Louder this time, heavier. Nicholson whirls toward the east. The first Panzer II appears through the thinning mist. Its turret swings lazily, scanning. Second tank emerges behind it. Then a third. Nicholson feels his breath catch. If the bridge holds long enough for even one of those machines to cross, the retreat becomes a massacre. Dunkirk becomes a slaughterhouse. And the evacuation, the operation not yet fully conceived, is before it begins. He walks toward the bridge again, boots splashing through puddles. "Lieutenant Harris," he calls out. Young lieutenant jogs over, face streaked with grime. "Sir, how many companies still need to cross?" "3, sir, possibly 4. Mixed units. Some French stragglers, too. 4 companies. Nearly 1,000 men." Nicholson looks back at the bridge boards buckling, ropes frayed, central beams sagging dangerously low. It's a miracle it hasn't collapsed already. He clenches his teeth. They won't make it in time. Unless... His eyes catch on something most would overlook. A narrow stretch of embankment upstream. It's a harsh slope, difficult footing, but passable for infantry if you push them hard enough. Not for trucks, not for carriers, but for men on foot. Just enough space, just enough time. Nicholson's mind snaps into focus. He points toward the embankment. Harris, divert one of the companies up there. Single file. Force march. Anyone who stays on this bridge longer than necessary risks all of us. Harris hesitates. They won't like it, sir. That slope is awful. They'll like being run down by panzers even less, Nicholson snaps. Harris salutes and runs off to redirect the troops. Nicholson lifts his field binoculars again. The German column is accelerating. Motorcycle troops fan out, spreading like ripples. You can almost hear the clatter of tracks biting into mud, the hiss of exhaust, the barked commands in German. This is it, the moment no commander wants. The moment when you realize that saving your men means sacrificing the very ground beneath your feet. He feels a tightness in his chest. Not fear. It's not panic, something heavier. Responsibility. He looks back at the bridge again, this time with finality. He knows what must happen. And he knows it will have to happen sooner than anyone around him is ready for, because the panzers are no longer approaching. They are coming straight for the bridge. The first shell lands wide far across the canal, but the sound alone is enough to seize every British soldier by the spine. A sharp crack, a whistle, then a geyser of mud erupting from the far bank. The Germans have spotted the crossing. Nicholson doesn't flinch. He can't. Not now. But the men nearest him duck instinctively, some dropping to their knees. A few curse under their breath. One young private stares at the rising smoke with eyes so wide they catch the dim morning light like glass. "Keep moving," Nicholson shouts, voice cutting through the chaos. "Across the bridge or up the embankment. Go." The column splits, like water hitting a rock. One stream pushes onto the already groaning bridge. The other veers toward the steep bank, boots slipping on wet grass, fingers clawing for purchase as they climb. Another shell lands closer this time. The concussion rolls across the canal and shoves wind against Nicholson's coat. You can almost feel it, the shockwave thudding through your chest. The taste of dust in your mouth, the bitter sting of cordite in the air. A pair of Royal Engineers drag their explosive satchels toward the final support column. They work fast, hands trembling but precise. Every wire is a lifeline. Every fuse is a prayer. One of them looks up at Nicholson. "Sir, if we wait too long," I know, Nicholson says quietly, but his eyes stay fixed on the far side of the canal. The Panzer, the second at the lead, suddenly slows. Its turret swings toward the bridge, metal grinding as it searches for targets. Behind it, the motorcycle troops begin fanning out. Forming a loose skirmish line, scouts, preparing to probe forward and find weak spots, Nicholson's mouth goes dry.
Oh.
They're almost within small arms range. Then another explosion, deafeningly close this time. Dirt and smoke billow into the air. A truck near the far bank bursts into flames, its ruptured fuel tank sending a tongue of fire licking across the ground. Men scatter, cursing, coughing, dragging wounded comrades out of the blast radius. For a moment, everything becomes noise gunfire, shouted orders, the crack of splintering timber. Then a voice rises above it all. "The bridge is giving," someone screams. Nicholson spins around. A long fissure runs down the center of the span, widening with every boot that hits the boards. The entire structure is sagging now, groaning like a wounded animal. Planks buckle, ropes snap. The central support dips dangerously low over the water. The men on it can see it in the panic that flashes across their faces. "Keep your spacing," Nicholson shouts. "No bunching move." But the German fire is intensifying. Machine gun rounds chatter from the far bank, kicking up splinters along the bridge railings. A corporal returning fire from the foot of the span is thrown backward as a bullet tears through his shoulder. Nicholson grabs the fallen man under the arm and hauls him toward cover. "You're not dying here," he growls, half to the corporal, half to himself. When he looks back at the bridge again, his stomach clenches. A section of planks near the center drops an inch, maybe two. Barely a movement, but in a structure already on the brink, it's a death sentence. Lieutenant Harris slides down the embankment, panting hard. "Sir, that's the last of the Norfolks." The French stragglers are nearly across too. How many still on the span? 2 squads, sir? It's too many. Nicholson looks down the length of the bridge, the exhausted men scrambling forward. Bent low under machine gun fire, boots hammering fragile planks that shudder under each step. They won't all make it. The German panzers are closing. Infantry now appear behind them, gray-coated shapes jogging into firing positions, rifle barrels glinting. A heavy machine gun sets up along the road shoulder. The gun team begins locking it into place. Nicholson feels a pressure behind his ribs, as if something inside him is trying to break free. He draws a slow breath. This is the moment. The exact moment a commander dreads. The moment when saving the majority means condemning the few. He steps toward the engineers. "Prepare the charges," he says. The sergeant stares at him. "Sir, air's still men on it." Nicholson's jaw tightens. "I'm aware." He lifts the field glasses again. One of the two remaining squads is almost across, maybe 20 paces from safety. The last squad is farther back, maybe 30 men fighting to stay upright as the entire span begins to sway. A shell lands so close that the bridge shivers, timbers rattle. One private falls to his knees. Nicholson lowers the glasses. "Sergeant," he says softly, "on my command." The engineer nods, though his hands tremble on the detonator leads. Behind Nicholson, a runner approaches, breathless. "Colonel, the French say their last section is across." This is it. Nicholson looks one last time at the bridge. Men running, men stumbling, men crying out for help. The entire structure groaning as if begging to be released. He closes his eyes just for a heartbeat. When he opens them again, the decision is already made. Because if he waits even 1 minute longer, the Germans will be on the bridge, and the miracle at Dunkirk will end before it begins. He lifts his hand. "Stand by." The engineers tense. The men still on the bridge turn, hearing something in Nicholson's voice, something final. He raises his hand higher. "And then on my mark." Nicholson's voice carries above the thunder of guns and the crack of rifles, sharp, calm, final. 3. 3. The world seems to slow. You can almost feel the air tighten, every sound stretched thin. The soldiers nearest the bridge freeze mid-step, eyes darting to their commander. Those still crossing mud-streaked, terrified push harder, lungs burning. Boots hammering broken planks that no longer promise to hold. Nicholson's gaze locks on the last man, stumbling toward the western bank, a young private, maybe 19. He's limping, dragging one leg behind him, rifle clutched like a crutch. Every step is a lifetime. "Come on, lad," Nicholson whispers under his breath. "Come on." The private lunges for the final few meters when the far end of the bridge erupts in gunfire. German MG-34s bark from the tree line, tracers slashing through the morning haze. Bullets snap the air apart, punching splinters into the wood around him. One round shreds his pack, another ricochets inches from his helmet. Nicholson's jaw clenches. The private leaps the last plank, landing hard on the west bank, and rolls to safety. Nicholson doesn't wait another second. Now, the Royal Engineer Sergeant slams the detonator. For a heartbeat, nothing happens. Then the bridge explodes. A single concussive roar shatters the dawn. The structure lifts off the canal in a blossom of smoke and splinters, then folds in on itself like a dying creature. The sound hits the men on the bank like a wall-deep, thunderous final. A gust of heat rushes across Nicholson's face. Dust fills the air. Chunks of timber rain down around them, hissing as they hit the water. You can smell the cordite. You can taste the grit. When the smoke thins, the Bassée Canal is no longer a crossing. It's a graveyard of wood and steel, the two banks now separated by a gap wide enough to stop any tank. On the far side, the Germans halt abruptly. The lead panzer's turret swings toward the crater where the bridge used to be. Through his binoculars, Nicholson can see the commander, a black uniformed figure standing in his hatch, pounding a fist against the turret rim in fury. They're stopped. For now. Nicholson exhales, a long, shaking breath he didn't realize he was holding. His ears ring, his coat and cap coated in ash. He turns to the engineers. "Well done, Sergeant," he says quietly. The sergeant nods once, still gripping the empty detonator box like it's a holy relic. But behind them, the men who made it across stare back at the canal in stunned silence. Some are cheering softly. Others just watch, wordless, realizing what they've escaped and who didn't make it. A handful of soldiers are still by the water's edge, scanning the wreckage for signs of life. There won't be any. The blast had been clean, precise, mercifully quick. But the cost of those final seconds hangs in the air like smoke that refuses to drift away. Lieutenant Harris approaches, voice low. "All units are across, sir. You can fall back to the secondary line." Nicholson nods, but doesn't move right away. He keeps his eyes on the canal, on the rising columns of black smoke twisting into the sky. For a moment, all he hears is the slow hiss of burning debris, and somewhere beneath it, the soft lap of water against the shattered timbers. He knows what that sound means. It means they'll live to fight another day. It also means men had to die here to make it so. He folds the damp, tattered map back into his coat pocket and finally turns to Harris. Signal HQ. Tell them the bridge at Bassée is down. The corridor to Dunkirk is open temporarily. Harris salutes and hurries off. Nicholson glances toward the men regrouping along the muddy road, faces hollow, eyes rimmed with exhaustion but alive. Some light cigarettes with shaking hands. Others collapse on their packs, staring blankly into nothing. He kneels, scoops a handful of dark canal water and splashes it across his face. It's cold enough to sting, to remind him he's still here, still breathing. Then he stands and looks west toward Dunkirk, toward the sea. He knows what awaits there. Chaos, desperation, the impossible rescue that hasn't even begun yet. But this moment, the few hours he's just bought, will give that miracle its first breath. Behind him, another artillery shell lands on the far side, harmlessly scattering dirt.
Ow.
The Germans are furious now, their advance snarled in the wreckage of their own momentum. Their engines roar in frustration, tanks grinding uselessly at the edge of the destroyed bridge.
Ow.
Nicholson lets out a faint, weary laugh. For the first time in days, the British have stolen time from the Germans. He adjusts his helmet, slings his rifle, and starts walking west with the others. The mist thickens again, curling around him like smoke, swallowing the shattered bridge behind. And as the first rays of sunlight break through the haze, glinting faintly off the canal's surface, one thing becomes clear. A single broken brig Nord on every map had just changed the course of history. The miracle of Dunkirk would not have existed without it.